My name's Kenya. I'm a jack of all trades, master of none. I currently bartend and go to school full time. I double major in studio art and minor in anthropology.
Fascinating.
Yeah, and this is
Hi.
hi. This is Sonia. Can you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I'm Sonia. I'm Sonia Bergren, and I have lived a lot of lives. And right now I'm sort of in the part that I call the third act. And turns out the third act is maybe the best one, which is a surprise, I think, to a lot of people.
Why would you say it's a surprise?
Well, because I'm in my 70s. I'm 78, and people tend to think about aging as a decline. What they don't realize is it's an opening and it's a freedom. And I have had many lives and worked in many different areas. And each time I've learned something from that step and I've moved along. And now it's like I reap the benefits.
Okay, so who are you at this act?
In this act, I think I'm probably mostly an artist, a philanthropist, a grandmother, a mother, a wife, a traveler. Yeah, a free spirit.
Okay, we spoke a little earlier, and we're both Sagittarius, so everything you're saying to me is resonating, and I feel like I see my future in the distance, and it looks beautiful.
Excellent.
But tell me a little bit about your art practice. What does that entail? What does it involve?
So my art practice, I came to, one might say, late in life. I decided to, I was in my 50s, so this was a while ago. And I decided to take an acting class, which was something I'd never done before. And I'd just finished a huge event of starting a school, which we can talk about another time, or later. But a friend said, "So what are you going to do now after you've accomplished this big task? It's been completely all consuming." And I said, I'm going to do something I have never done before. I'm going to take an acting class, because we had our three kids then, and our daughters were very into acting. And so I signed up for an acting class at South Coast Repertory. And I went into my first class and I said, okay, I love class. I don't want to go on stage. I don't want to do anything else. I just want to keep taking acting one, because it was such a fun, inspiring kind of place to be with young people who were trying out new things. And I was trying out something completely new. And I really had no desire to go on stage. And I kept taking the same class about, I don't know, 2-3 times. And then my dear friend Norma Bowles, who was my teacher at the time, kicked me out, whatever. And I moved on to intermediate, and then another sort of acting conservatory and an actor's workshop. And one thing led to another. And I met a friend who, she and I were doing scenes from a play called Collected Stories by Donald Margulies. And we were doing the beginning, the middle, the end. We're doing all this stuff. And we're sitting there having coffee one day saying, why doesn't somebody do this play? So we said, well, why don't we do the play? Because if someone else did the play, they might not cast us both. We might not like the director. So that was the beginning of my theater company, which I formed with Karen Ray, who's 20 years younger than me. It was a 2-woman play. It's a fabulous play, a fabulous part. And that was how it got started. We named it Pandora Productions.
I love that.
With 2 N's. The reason it has 2 N's is because our daughter Anne, A-N-N, was also a thespian at the time, and she was going through some rough times. And so we just put her name right in the middle of Pandora, and it's P-A-N-N-D-O-R-A.
Oh, okay.
Not to be confused with other imitation Pandoras. But anyway, so that was Pandora Productions. And we got off and running, and we kept going for 20 years. And we evolved into a company where at first it was this ensemble of fellow actors out of South Coast Rep saying, so what do you want to do? And well, I think I want to do I'm Not Rappaport. It's like, okay, let's do that. And we'll put so-and-so in it, so-and-so in it. And, off we went. And we would rent theaters, share production costs with theaters, whoever would have us. And then at some point, about 5 years in, we decided to start a new works festival, and we called it Pandora's Box. And so we'd have the opening of Pandora's Box for playwrights whose works had never been produced before.
Oh, that's really cool.
They could have been workshopped, but just not produced.
Yeah.
And, the first year, I think we got 50 plays. And back then they were hard copies, so we're schlepping all these plays around and reading these plays. And by the time we did this for 16 years, we had the
Wow.
festival. And by the time we wrapped the company, we were getting between 200 and 300 submissions a year online, which made it a lot easier. We had 3 teams of readers, of like 5 readers each. Every play was read by at least 2 people. And they gave them a rating, thumbs up, thumbs down, whatever. And the ones that ended up in the yes pile that got 2 thumbs up were read by all 15 of us.
Wow.
And we'd have a gathering in the fall, and we'd decide, usually over Labor Day, we'd sit around in our house, we'd sit around our family room and talk about which ones we liked. And before that, we'd ask everybody, send your top 10. And then it was just sort of a numbers thing.
Yeah.
And what was interesting is we always ended up with usually like 3 plays that were just locked in because we were going to do a festival of 5.
So it wasn't a hard decision-making
No, it
process.
wasn't hard. And
Everyone kind of came together and like was aligned in there.
They all came together for that. And we'd talk about the other 2 and we'd read parts and stuff and see what we thought. And then we'd call those playwrights and tell them, you're going to be in Pandora's Box, Festival of New Works, sometime in the fall. And they get all excited and we get all excited. We'd do the festival over one weekend. And then we'd take a little break and we'd think about it. And we'd take one of those plays and produce it the following spring.
Okay.
And what our audience liked was they never saw anything they'd ever seen before because these were brand new plays.
Yeah, it was different.
Yeah, it was different. And our playwrights loved it because sometimes they had never heard their play. A lot of them had never had any productions.
Wow.
They'd never heard their play read out loud by actors. And I think we touched something like 85 playwrights.
Wow. I'm sure that was life-changing too, because it's very different to write something and then see it in action. It probably changes how you would then write plays going forward.
Yeah. And to hear it when you haven't heard it read, then it comes out of the mouth of an actor. It's a good deal. So that was my artistic bent. And then in the middle of that, not in the middle, but 2012, 2013, I ended up spending a year at the Yale School of Drama.
Okay.
I was a special research fellow in directing. And I like to say I was a student at the Yale School of Drama the year I qualified for Medicare. And that was pretty life-changing.
Yeah.
Absolutely life-changing.
Yeah.
And that has informed this third act immensely. And that's what's gotten me really deeply into supporting other people's art. I was in directing. There are only 9 directors total at Yale in any one year. So
yeah, I was actually curious because I'm not familiar with the theater industry. I'm not familiar with drama that much, but what was it like being 2 women who opened up this like production company? What was it like being a woman like at Yale? Is theater like a male-dominated industry? Is it like similar to other things, or do you feel like there was any ways in which, or any prejudices that you even experienced? I'm curious about that.
I think if you're in the professional world,
Yeah.
which we really weren't.
Okay.
We were in much smaller stakes.
Like grassroots
We
kind
were
of thing?
very grassroots. In the professional world, it's very male-dominated.
Gotcha.
Very male-dominated. And it was a bit, but really for us, we were just 2 chicks putting on a play. And
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. And it's like somebody, okay, you got your theater and there's nobody in it this summer. What do you think? Can we come use it? It was a few steps up from doing it in the backyard as a kid.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, that's
but
kind of, were you here in New York doing these things? Or?
No, we were in Long Beach, California.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So all of this happened in California, Southern California, sort of Long Beach, some in Orange County, Santa Ana. We were on a little theater for a while that was on Broadway in Santa Ana. We like to say, we're on Broadway.
Yeah, you're on Broadway.
But we're on Broadway. But you're also talking theaters that hold 45 people on a good day.
No one has to know that. You're just like, I was on Broadway.
Yeah, we were on Broadway. And, I was in Wit on Broadway, that Broadway. And what was magical about that was I was by then in my 60s.
Yeah.
And so I got naked on stage, shaved my head, And I'm in a
Yeah.
little state. Oh, yeah. And I'm in this little theater
Yeah.
where I'm as close to my audience as you and I are.
Yeah.
And it was astonishing. It was just astonishing because the impact that I felt I could have on the audience with this gorgeous, gorgeous play, which was a play I'd aspired to
What
from the.
was the play about, if you don't mind me asking?
So the play Wit, I highly recommend it, that reading it, is about a woman who is dying of cancer. And she knows she has just hours left to live. And she starts the play in a hospital gown with an IV bag, with no hair, saying, "Hi, I have stage 4 ovarian cancer." There is no stage 5. And it tracks her. She's a professor.
Yeah.
She's had students. She doesn't have children. And it tracks her journey through these final hours of her life. Not an easy thing to do.
No, that sounds very intense.
But it's a gorgeous play. A gorgeous, gorgeous play. It won the Pulitzer.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. So I think it's, interestingly enough, it's written by a woman who's a kindergarten teacher who had also worked in a hospital. So she knew patients who had died of cancer. And the actress Kathy Chalfant played the role off Broadway when it won the Pulitzer and when it first came out. And I had the great good luck to get to talk to her about it.
That's beautiful.
Which was beautiful. And there's a scene at the end when it's her Victoria scene where she finally dies. And of course, the medical folks, the doctors are all running in trying to restart her. And even though she has a do not resuscitate, they're not paying attention to it. And somehow that gets, a young doctor, her nurse stops the whole thing and says, no, she doesn't want this.
Yeah.
And so I died on stage. And that's the part where you stand up. I stood up naked in front of this audience. And I'm thinking before, when I read the thing, how am I going to do this?
Yeah.
I'm thinking I'm going to show a little butt cheek. I'll just sort of slip off. Nobody's going to know, It'll be kind of racy, but I don't know how I'm going to do it.
It was full on naked.
So I asked Kathy Chalfant, this beautiful woman I said, we talked for 2 hours at a coffee shop across from her apartment in the West Village. And I said, how'd you do that last scene? The naked scene. And she stands up which I won't do right now because it'll mess up the microphones. But she stands up in the middle of this little busy coffee shop and says, like this.
Did she get naked in the coffee shop?
She was not naked in the coffee shop. Good point. She was not naked in the coffee shop. But she said, it's a victory. It's her freedom. It's her celebration. And when you put your arms up like that, it makes your tits look great. So I'm like, okay, got it. So I went back and I told Pete Taylor, who's my incredibly dear friend and director, who just held me my whole cast held me like this through the whole thing. I told Pete, okay, so this is what Kathy Chalfant says. And he said, great. And he'd been so gentle. He hadn't said anything to me. That's absolutely what he wanted, but he didn't want to freak me out. So he let me get there on my own.
That's awesome.
Which is the sign of a really good director.
Was that your first nude scene?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
And last.
So it sounds like the company was a big support for you and that they held you during this time. What did that look like?
It was key. It was so important. I mean, I think I told you how Pete, our director, was so gentle and careful about not pushing me to get naked the way Kathy Chalfant taught me to. He also shaved my head every week, getting ready for the performances. Every weekend he'd shave my head, which was pretty sweet.
That's beautiful. It's very intimate.
Yeah, it is. It's very intimate. And he played the older doctor and he played my father in the play, which turned out to be a really stunningly remarkable thing because my actual real father died during
I'm sorry to hear that.
the run. He was 93 years old. He'd had a good life. It wasn't surprising that he went when he did. He went in not a bad way for something that has to happen to everybody. But he literally died in the run. And we canceled one performance and a Friday night, and then we started again on Saturday. And I just remember Pete saying that he felt so much responsibility, but or kind of so much need to comfort that first night when we went back on stage. And he's playing my dad
Yeah.
on stage.
Yeah. Do you feel like how did that feel like spiritually almost or like emotionally? Because that's
It,
a lot that's going on, but then
yeah,
also like in a way he became a father figure to you in that setting. So
it felt, I felt held. I just felt held.
that's beautiful.
And, you know, in times of loss, this is going to bring tears to my eyes. That's what you can do. And that's the only thing you can do.
Yeah.
You can't fix it. You can't
No.
change things, but you can hold,
Be a witness.
and be a witness and be a witness. And my whole company did that. Karen, who's my production partner who started the company with me, played my nurse. And she was the one who brought me the bathrobe and covered me just before curtain call.
Yeah.
Because I'm naked right before
Yeah.
curtain call. And she's the one who, like, before the lights go back on, covers me up. So she was literally embracing me with this robe. It was really gorgeous. It was, and I mean, the sort of ironic thing is our kids, our daughters were in high school at the time, and they came to see the show. And we would go across the street and, you know, have a drink or eat something afterwards. And I saw them afterwards, and I'm like, so do you guys want to go get something across the street? And they were both like, no.
Aww.
They were in tears. I'm like, it's just a story.
Yeah.
I'm okay. It's just a play.
But it was everything that was happening, what was happening in your
That's
actual
true.
life
And
to
yeah, it was
see.
a lot.
Yeah.
It was a lot. But it was incredibly it was special in so many ways. I mean, I felt like it was the culmination of my non-famous acting career, but that was the biggest challenge I ever had. And after I did it, and I did it well, I'm like, okay, I don't really need to act anymore.
You felt satisfied.
I was very satisfied.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that was 2010. And after that, I segued into directing, and that led me to 2012, 2013. I'm at Yale. So.
Amazing. So we talked a little bit about Act 3.
Mm-hmm.
Let's start at Act 1.
Like in the beginning, where'd I come from? That kind of stuff.
Sure, let's start there.
Let's
yeah.
start there.
Yeah.
Okay. I grew up in a little town in Southern California called Ojai.
Okay.
Ojai is spelled Ojai.
Okay.
People who aren't from Southern California would have no idea.
Yeah, I would never have guessed that.
And it's a little town of 5,000 people, you know, that's in a little valley that's quite lovely.
5,000 people.
5,000 people.
Wow. I went to a high school that had 4,000 people alone.
Yeah. Okay, your high school was as big as my town.
That's ridiculous.
That is crazy. Yeah, it's like they're cruise ships that are bigger than my town.
Yeah.
You know? I mean,
small towns are kind
it's a
of
little town.
chaotic.
Yeah.
Tell me about it.
So I grew up in this little town in a family of farmers from Southern Illinois.
Wow.
Who moved west, like during World War II.
Okay.
My mom and dad, I lived next door to my mom's two sisters. I had an aunt and uncle and cousins on one side, aunt and uncle and cousins on the other side, and a cousin next door to them. So I grew up in a compound in this little town. And everybody in my family was a school teacher.
Oh, wow.
Pretty much everybody.
Yeah.
And my mom used to say that her father, who was a farmer and a barber, said his girls were going to have, they weren't going to have to depend upon a man to survive.
Period.
So they
go.
went off to teachers college, which is sort of what, you know, one did back in the 30s, I guess. And he had 3 daughters and 2 sons. All 5 of them went into education.
Oh, wow.
But ultimately, you know, some were taught at college level, some were superintendents, my mom ended up being a principal of 2 schools. You know,
okay.
I mean,
what age levels, if you don't mind me asking?
She was elementary school.
Okay.
She was like, you know, did K through 6. Yeah.
Okay.
She did kindergarten through 6, all in Ojai or, you know, around there.
So wait, if there was only 4,000 people, how many schools were there?
Interesting enough, there were a fair number. because the schools were little, they weren't that big. I mean, my elementary school, it had a kindergarten, it had a first and a second grade combined. No,
Okay.
first grade, it had a second and third grade combined, a fourth, fifth, and sixth grade combined. I mean, so had been a one-room schoolhouse,
Okay.
but it branched out. I think we had like 5 rooms, but it was little,
Okay.
So it was a small world in that way. But since I always thought I was going to be a teacher, and I loved languages too. My aunt she taught high school. I want to think she taught high school. She taught high school French and Spanish, and she traveled a lot. And I got the travel bug. And
As a Sagittarius does.
I guess that's right.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Interesting. So I got the travel bug. My mom and my aunt and I went to Europe when I want to say I was 15, something like that.
Which part?
It was the sort of, the big stars, London, Paris, Rome.
Okay.
I think that was it. Oh, and someplace in Switzerland, but I forget where. And yeah, in a place somewhere in Switzerland. So, I hopped around. I ended up deciding to go, I always loved languages. So I decided I was going to be a language major.
Okay.
And I went to college at the University of California at Irvine the year that it opened up.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was a charter student. I think there were 1,500 kids there. So it was not all that big. And it was a couple hours from Ojai. So it was kind of perfect.
And what year roughly was this?
I started in 1965, started college in 1965. Okay. I graduated college in 1969.
So like 60s, that's like hippie era?
It's hippies.
Were you a hippie?
It's Vietnam War.
Vietnam War, yeah. So that's what I'm thinking.
That's
like
where I become.
Black Panther Party, especially in Cali.
Yes,
yeah.
You got it. Angela Davis. Yeah, everything's happening right then. Shut it down to open it up.
Yeah. And Oakland has a huge activist scene, so I'm kind of curious how that impacted you.
Yeah.
Or California in general, because of these different movements.
Right.
Yeah.
All that stuff was going on. Well, I was never anything but a Democrat, which was not true of my rural
upbringing.
Illinois family. My dad was very Republican.
Did this ever create like feelings of alienation within your family?
Yeah, we had a lot of. I remember when I came home, I had this little Volkswagen Bug, and I had a Eugene McCarthy sticker on it. It was my first election, and Eugene McCarthy was, of course, a Democrat. I think he was a candidate. He didn't end up being the candidate. And my dad's like, "Why do you have that flower on your car?" Because I do. So anyway, that was. When I graduated or I finished college, I was like, okay, I'm not quite done yet. I don't know what I want to do.
Yeah.
With the teaching thing. So I went to school in Paris for 6 months on a program that was for French teachers. And that was great. And then I came back and I'm like, okay, I'm still not ready to go out into the world. I'm in graduate school, technically. And so I'm in this program, kind of an indefinite master's PhD program in French, which I really am not into.
How did you feel about Paris?
I loved it.
You loved it. Okay.
I adored it. I absolutely adored it. In fact, I've gone back many times since. I still love it.
Yeah. Did you have like any torrid affairs out there? This is a city of romance.
It is a city of romance. I did not have torrid
Give
affairs.
us the tea.
I was not having. Yeah, I did not have torrid affairs. I was having more torrid affairs at home before I left. Yeah. In fact, yeah. Before I left, I'm on my way there. I'm saying goodbye to my then college boyfriend he said, we're not in college anymore. We're just out, And in Ojai, he must come to visit me. I don't know. We're out in the woods somewhere. Turns out I come back and I'm visiting my friend in London and I have this rash. I've got poison oak all over my body.
Ugh.
And they don't know from poison oak in London.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was hysterical. I'm like, okay, this was weird. But anyway, I got over that. But I didn't have any torrid affairs when I was there, interestingly enough. But I'm still trying to make sense of my life, right? Yeah. So I'm going to be a French major now. Maybe not. How about comparative literature? Because I was a German minor. So that all makes sense. So I'm trying to do that. That makes sense. And then I get tired of that. And so I just quit doing that and become a barmaid for a while. So I'm a barmaid.
Okay. What is a barmaid?
I liked. Cocktail waitress.
Okay.
And interestingly enough, at that time, women could not be bartenders in the state of California unless their name was on the liquor license. So I couldn't have had your job, although I
That's
would have
ridiculous.
loved having your job.
I'm sure you would have had a lot of fun.
Yeah, right. All I got to do was walk around with the tray and the short skirt and,
Yeah.
get big tips. In fact, I haven't gotten to the point where there is a point where I go to law school and I made more money as a cocktail waitress than I did as a first-year lawyer.
Wow.
Tells you something. Now, this was way back when.
Was this because of the field? Was this because you were a woman being a lawyer? Was this like...
It was just the times.
Okay.
I mean, I was paid the same, men and women lawyers, baby lawyers were all paid the same.
Okay, got
it.
And
it seemed like a lot of money, but it wasn't tips.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like that's even the case.
Tips are like, tips for how you made a lot of money as a cocktail waitress. So I'm being a cocktail waitress for a while. My father's convinced that, I'm going to end up wearing black taffeta skirt and working in one of those places that's got the red naga hide boots and stuff when I'm 50. And I'm like, no, Dad, that's not where I'm going. This is just a little hiatus.
Yeah.
It's a little rest.
It's a gig. It's a gig.
Yeah. Right. So then I decide library school. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I'll go to library school. So I went to library school. I went to USC and I got a master's of science in library science.
Okay.
In the middle of doing that, I met my first husband, who was a friend of my friend who'd been in Paris with me. And he was at UC Santa Barbara. So anyway, we got married. He was in a PhD program in economics. And we get married in August, I think.
How long after you had known each other?
Oh, maybe a year.
Okay.
Yeah, we'd known each other for about a year. I've packed up my MSLS, my newly minted Master's of Science in Library Science, which is a virginal degree. I have not worked as a librarian except in the course of being an intern.
Yeah.
And we head off to Chicago because he has a fellowship, a Fulbright, I want to say, to write his dissertation at Northwestern.
So he was a writer?
Well, he was an economist. And he's writing his dissertation. So he's getting his PhD.
Okay, he was an economist.
So he's doing that. He
was an economist. What was his personality like?
He was just like a big teddy bear.
Because I'm like, kinda. You seem more free-spirited and like...
Definitely.
You're obviously following like your different hunches and like your leads. And so I was kind of curious about that dynamic.
Then, too.
I see. Okay.
I was a different person then. And so here I am in Chicago. I try to get a job as a librarian and I'm like, hi, you want to hire me for a year? Because in a year he'll finish his dissertation and we'll go wherever he's going to teach. And I don't have any experience. So guess what? No, they don't want to hire you to be a librarian. So I got a job as a sort of glorified administrative assistant.
Okay.
And, I was working for the Council on Dental Therapeutics at the American Dental Association.
Okay.
And everyone was very nice.
Yeah.
Everyone was very male. They're all these. And, there was a lot of, oh, honey, can you get the coffee? Can you do this? Can you do that too?
Yeah.
And that experience, at the end of that experience, I said, I want to do something that gives me power over men.
Period.
Little change of course.
Yeah.
So law school. I just decided, okay, I don't like blood, so I don't want to be a doctor.
Yeah.
So
right there
law
with
school.
You.
So my deal with my first husband, Robert, was, I don't care where we go or but pick a school that has a law school.
Yeah.
So I ended up going to law school the way most people go to kindergarten, what's down the street. So I started at the University of Kentucky in Lexington, which I love.
Okay.
Lexington was great. And it was at the beginning of the women's movement.
Okay.
So I don't know, do you know the cartoon Doonesbury?
I'm not familiar with the cartoon Doonesbury.
It was of an era, but there's this character called Joni Caucus, and she's like, a law student, and she's, women's rights and stuff. And so we had a little women's law caucus group.
Cute.
I should not say little.
Yeah.
We had that's a women thing to do.
Yeah.
Is to
diminish ourselves.
So I'm taking the little out of that.
Yeah.
The Women's Law Caucus, our first task once I was in law school was to rewrite the entire civil code for the state of Kentucky to take out the weird ancient sexist shit that's just in there.
Yeah.
It does not doing anything. Nobody's using it, but it's just wrong.
What kind of stuff did you guys end up seeing and taking out and finding?
This is a really good question because I'm trying to remember right now. I can't remember anything.
Also, roughly what year was this?
This was in 1974.
74. Okay.
Yeah, 1974. So anyway, I'll try and remember something specific, but I can't come up with one. I will tell you a fun specific thing that happened because of this.
Yeah.
So we ended up with an omnibus bill, which means it's one bill that sort of addressed everything, under the theory that these are just sexist things where they might just say a he where it could be a he or a she or, stuff like that. And we had to have a sponsor and from the state legislature. And so we got a sponsor. And one Saturday morning, our phone rings and I answer it and said, yes, Sonia there? Yeah, that's me. This is Joe. Can't remember his last name. He was a state senator. He was the sponsor. He's calling me on the phone on Saturday morning to chat. Now, I'm coming from California, where if I write a letter to my state senator or representative about anything, I get an answer 2 months later on a different topic.
Right. Yeah.
So
you got a direct line.
He's talking to me, this guy.
A direct line, yeah. And that must have been
a lot. Yeah. It was a lot. And it also made me love the small state of Kentucky because I realized, damn, it really is different. Yeah. And you realize when you grow up in California's huge.
Yeah.
Huge.
Yeah.
And
you grew up in Southern California,
I grew up in Southern California.
It's so different than Northern California.
Yeah, we're like two different states already.
Yeah.
And anyway, and we have a ton of people. We're like 35 million people, fourth largest economy in the world. It's a country.
Yeah. Kind of like New York City.
Yeah.
Or New York and New York City.
Yeah. Right. So anyway, where was I?
Oh, so he called you, the senator called you, Joe?
The senator called. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so anyway, the bill passed and that was a big time.
That's a major success.
It was a major success. And, it's also Roe v. Wade is happened then. The Equal Rights Amendment we're working on. It's passing. It passes. It just doesn't get put into the Constitution.
Got it. Yeah.
For a number of reasons. But anyway, so I'm on this sort of wave of feminism and excitement about being
was that like second wave around that time?
That would, I suppose it was. Was that second wave? That's a good question. Because I guess the first one was like Simone de Beauvoir and those people. Yeah. But this was Germaine Greer. This was Ms. Magazine. Who's Gloria Steinem.
Yeah, Gloria Steinem.
Yeah, was that wave. So that's all going on.
Yeah.
And so, I go to law school. I start at Kentucky. Then he gets a job at a better econ department, better law school, Washington University in St. Louis. We move. I go there for a year. Then he gets a job offer to go back to Northwestern, which is a better school and a better law school. So we go back to Northwestern. And that's where I get my law degree.
Amazing. Northwestern's a great school, too.
Yeah, it is a really good school. And then I clerked for a federal judge after that.
What was that like?
It was my dream job.
Okay.
I loved it so much. I had a wonderful judge, John F. Grady. It was almost his second, maybe I think it was his second year on the bench. He went on to become Chief Justice and all sorts of things. But he was just a lovely, lovely, lovely human being. And it was like my dream job. I mean, I got to sit in the chambers. There were two clerks and we would write opinions for him. We'd sit in the courtroom. It was great.
Interesting. So you would write opinions for him?
Yeah, we'd write opinions and then he would, he'd look at them. If he liked it, he might ask us to make a change or whatever. And then that would become the law of that case. And so you have a lot.
Interesting.
You do a lot of processing and you do a lot of learning. So that was pretty amazing. And after that, then it's get a job, So, and by then, Robert decided he didn't want to teach anymore. He wanted to go into consulting.
Okay.
And we were both from California. And I interviewed with California firms and Chicago firms and got an offer from the law firm of Latham and Watkins.
Which is in
Los Angeles.
Oh, wow.
And, so it's in LA.
Yeah.
And I really liked these guys. They were just sort of very irreverent and kind of just fun and interesting people. I really liked him when I interviewed, got a job offer, went to work there, and settled in Los Angeles.
Right.
We bought a house, our very first house, and wish you could buy a house in Los Angeles for $45,000 then. Can't do that anymore.
I don't know if you could
Pretty
buy a
much
house
anywhere.
anywhere.
I don't know if you could buy one anywhere now. That's a very good point.
Yeah.
And I started practicing law, and I think I was possibly the 100th lawyer.
Okay.
Maybe either I was the 100th lawyer or my now husband, Patrick, was the 100th lawyer.
So that's how y'all met.
That's how we all met. We started off cycle from everybody else. Me because I was clerking.
Yeah.
Him because he was traveling around the world after
wow.
law school. He was like backpacking his way around the world, and the firm kept saying, "So are you coming now? You're supposed to come like in the summer, start in the early fall." And he kept saying, "Nah, I'm in India or I'm wherever. I'm in Australia. I'll be there in a couple months."
I'm following my whims.
Yeah, I'm following his whims. That's what he's like. And so anyway, he'd finally shown up like March 29th or something like that, and I showed up on April 10th.
Wow.
And there was just the two of us in this off cycle, but we were still part of the class of 1977, which was your graduating law school class. And there were 15 of us, maybe, something like that. So, we were all sort of bonded. But Patrick and I became best friends right away, and we just had lunch every day.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Wait, so where was your husband during all of this?
He was there. There. Yeah. He was
Don't let your
there.
husband stop you from finding your husband.
Finding another one. And we were all just friends. Everybody was friends, in this little group of lawyers, and we'd go on vacations together. We'd all go to the wine country, and we'd go here and we'd go there and blah, blah, blah. We'd go on recruiting dinners, all this stuff. Robert would find dates for Patrick, which was sort of funny. And we're just really close buddies. I mean, I think we threw Patrick's 30th birthday party, and Robert made, oyster dishes for him and stuff, all this stuff. Anyway, about a couple years in, husband one, Robert gets a job in D.C. working for the Carter administration.
Okay.
And I could have moved too, but I was becoming a labor lawyer, and my practice was starting to develop, and labor is very local.
Yeah.
And I didn't really want to be in D.C. So anyway, so we decided he'd go for a year and I would stay, and we'd commute. And he says to Patrick, "Take good care of Sonia." And yeah. And
he took good care of Sonia.
He took good care of Sonia. We weren't thinking it was going to head that direction, but it did.
Again, don't let your husband stop you from finding your husband.
Yeah. Very good point. Very good point. Yeah.
How did your first husband feel about this?
Not happy. Very much not happy. In fact,
Sonia,
when I moved out,
what is the hashtag women in male dominated fields?
Yeah, right. So when I moved out on May 5th, 1982, where I just said, and this was after a long sort of series of stuff that I won't go into in great detail, but Robert comes back and Patrick and I say, "We're going to be good. We're not going to see each other. We're not breaking up this marriage." We both sort of thought that was what we were doing. It was like, this was a fling. We'll end it. And we ended it for like a year. It was the most miserable year of my life. I kept walking to my office. I used to walk right by Patrick's office. So I'd go the other way and I'd walk all the way, so I wouldn't bump into him. It was painful. Anyway, finally, like on March 17th, which is St. Patrick's Day, I was in Northern California staying with friends because I had a deposition up there. And I just called Patrick up. I said, "I can't do this. I can't not see you."
Aww.
So that was March. May 5th, I move out. And I don't know, at some point soon thereafter, Robert calls Patrick and says, "Get your piano out of my house before I turn it into toothpicks." That was dramatic.
He wasn't messing around.
No, he didn't mess around. He was, and he was a good man. He was a really good man, and he was a really good husband. I tried to start to say he was a good starter husband, but it doesn't sound right. But But he
It was the
was.
entry level,
He
you
was an
know?
entry level. He was
Yeah,
my
yeah.
entry level husband. Yeah. He was incredibly supportive. He worshipped the ground I walked on, maybe a little too much. And anyway, I have a much
That's
different
so Sagittarius
relationship.
coding.
My marriage to Patrick is very different. Is very different. So anyway, May 5th, 1982, I move out and get divorced. May 5th, 1984, Patrick and I get married.
Wow.
1985, we have a baby. 1987, we have a baby. 1989, we have a baby.
Oh, y'all didn't stop.
Yeah, no, it's like, damn. As my father said, well, like the old Swede's wife said, you're just full of dim tings. I think was his comment when I said, we're pregnant again. Which is kind of funny. But yeah, so in the course of having all those babies, at some point, I think it was when our daughter was 1 and our son was 3. Our son was first and then 2 girls. When she was 1, I'm like, okay, I'm practicing law. I'm at work all the time. I come home. I talk to the 3-year-old because he can talk. I hold the baby, but I don't feel like I know her. And I just called him, and I was partner by then. Patrick and I both made partner at the same time. So I'm a partner, which is a big deal because Latham Watkins is the one. It's huge. Now it's got 2,000 lawyers or something. It's ginormous. It was a big deal then too. It was like there were 3 big law firms in LA and it was one of them.
Yeah.
Is still one of them. And anyway, I'm calling up my partners and I'm like, I want to be a mom. I'm going to go on leave. I'm like, okay, fine. You'll be back in 6 months. Well, about 5 minutes later, I get pregnant with Claire. Or,
5 minutes later.
Not coming back in 6 months. And then I'd have this call with our managing partner, who's a dear, dear friend, every January about, so what do you think? No, I'm not ready to come back. No, not ready to come back. And that just kept going on.
Yeah.
Until I finally said, okay, I'm ready to come back.
Yeah.
I'm ready to give it up completely.
Oh, okay. So you were just like, I'm ready to actually be done.
I'm ready
putting
to
it
actually
off.
be done. And I thought, that was like 5 years. It was a long time.
Wow.
Yeah. And they were, I will say the firm was great about letting me just continue.
Yeah.
Of course, I looked good in the numbers. They had another woman partner.
Yeah.
And they had my capital account, so they had my money. And finally, I'm like, okay, I'm done. I'm not coming back.
Yeah.
But there's a funny side story that happened about, I don't know, a few months before I finally say I'm done. There's a new round of partners. They've just gotten elected, and they're looking for offices. And they kept my office as my office and used it as visiting attorneys and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so they sent Patrick home to say, is it okay if we ask Sonia if she's okay giving her office to, one of these new partners. And by then, I've been gone 4 years, right?
Yeah.
You would think I'd be done. Well, he asks me and I burst into tears. And I'm like, what was that?
Yeah.
I was so shocked at my own reaction.
Yeah. Did you miss it or?
No. That's what's so crazy. I didn't miss it. But I sort of realized, it's a big accomplishment to say I'm a Latham Watkins partner.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And to finally say, no, I'm not anymore.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
Was a whole other thing. And Patrick goes back and he goes, not asking her again. This is up to you guys. You want to ask her, fine. But don't send me back to do that. And within months, I did just say, you can have my office. It's fine. I'm not coming back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what happened after that? Did you pivot again? Did you just?
Oh, yeah. What happened after that? Okay. All kinds of stuff. So I've stopped working, right?
Yeah.
And then we have this other little kid. And so I'm being a mom and I've got three kids under the age 4 and under, which is a lot.
Yeah.
And they're going to this little Montessori school. The 4-year-old and the, what is she then? 2-year-old are going to the Montessori school, and which is really kind of lovely. And we find out, or we hear word of that there's a group of family there that's starting a new independent school in Long Beach.
Okay.
And Long Beach, interestingly enough, was a town of like close to 500,000 people,
Okay.
had no coeducational, non-religious independent schools.
Oh, wow.
They were either, an all-girls school or an all-boys school,
Yeah. And then
or
like
they were
Catholic or
religious. Yeah,
something.
they were
Yeah.
Catholic or Christian or some kind of
Yeah.
something. And they didn't have just a plain old independent school. And, it just appealed to me. I realized that, I come from this family of teachers and I love feeling schools. I love being around education. And it's kind of in my genetic makeup. So we go to this meeting and, it's at these people's house and everybody's standing around getting excited about this idea of this non-existent school. And they sort of say, well, who wants to, who's in? And then a bunch of us raise our hands and we become the first board. I used to say, it was like we walked out on that street and just on 7th Avenue, put your hands out, stopped the first 13 people and said, you're going to be the board of this new school. Because there wasn't, we weren't put together for any reason other than that we showed up.
Yeah.
And so we had our first board meeting and I showed up at the first board meeting with a list of stuff I thought we ought to talk about. You might call it an agenda.
Yeah. And how did they react?
They made me president of the board.
Is that what you wanted?
I didn't thought that through, obviously. But yeah, it was like there I was because I had an agenda of sorts.
Yeah,
I think
I'm organized.
I'm organized. This is shit we need to figure out,
Yeah.
And I was the board president of this non-existent school for its first 6 years, during which time it came into being.
Wow. Okay.
Which was huge.
Yeah.
Was really huge. And yeah, it was really huge. That was, other than the births of our children, was the biggest thing in my life. I mean, to me, it meant so much more than making partner.
Yeah.
It was such a much bigger accomplishment.
That's amazing.
To see this school open up and these kids show up, and come running in the first day. And it just, man, I love that so much.
And so how long were you there for?
I'm the board president, so I don't teach. I'm not the head or any of that, but I'm close to everything all the time. And I was the board president for 6 years, which was a super long term and longer than, is desirable.
Yeah.
So when I finally finished that was when a friend said, so what are you going to do now?
Yeah.
I think I'll take an acting class.
Okay.
That's when that happened.
Oh, so now we circle back to acting.
Now we're back to acting. And this is sort of the genesis of what I've come to call my shiny objects view of life.
Okay. And what's that?
Was that, you remember how I kept going to, okay, I'm a French major, I'm a German minor, I'm going to do this teaching thing, I'm going to teach French. No, okay, I'm a graduate student in French. No, in comparative literature. No, I'm going to be a librarian. I'm trying to make it all make sense.
Yeah. Trying to find a through line.
Right. When I stopped trying to make it all make sense, it started to make sense.
Yeah. That's usually how it goes.
Yeah. So that's what I call it, the shiny objects theory of life. You just go to what caught my attention.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a school. Let's go over there. Oh, there's an acting class. Let's do that.
Do you feel like there was an intuitive pull? Like there was something inside of you that was pulling you towards these things? Did you ever have like a North Star even? Or?
If I did, I know I had a North Star about the school. And that's just because that was the world I grew up in.
Yeah.
I grew up sitting in the back of my mom's second, third grade class while she's teaching and I'm hanging out in the back, cutting out stuff for her to put on the bulletin board, stuff like that. And so the school was that way. Acting, God knows. I mean, it's really interesting. I don't know why. I mean, I guess I decided, that this would be fun. There was I had a small, almost detour into acting when I was practicing law. And this was, I think, might have been when Robert was in DC and Patrick was taking care of Sonia. And I took an improv class. I took an improv class at the Groundlings in LA, which is big improv studio. And we used to go to their shows and stuff. And so I saw this thing says they teach classes and you're supposed to have acting background, which I didn't. I'm a lawyer then, right?
Yeah.
So I talked my
I mean,
wins. Yeah. I'm
that's
like,
kind of acting
I'm a
too.
lawyer. Right. That's what I
Yeah.
think. I'm thinking, okay, I go to court, I talk to people, blah, blah, blah. And so I literally talked my way in. And the poor guy who's teaching the class would stand outside the circle of people doing the improv stuff and he would shout at me, stop thinking. Yes, that was all I was doing. Because
Get
being a
out of your
lawyer
head.
is the
Yeah.
worst training for being an actor.
Mm.
As a lawyer, you have to think about everything before you open your mouth.
Yeah. It's like playing chess.
Yeah. You can't just rush into something and blurt out whatever. If you do that as an actor, you will put the entire theater to sleep.
Okay. So in true Sagittarius fashion, it sounds like you've always marched to the beat of your own drum, you know? And so for me, I'm curious, like throughout all these experiences, through all these different life paths that you've taken, like what is your personal philosophy to life?
That's a big question. And there's a phrase that came to me for some random reason when I was reading some self-help book, I don't know, 20, 30 years ago, where you're supposed to come up with what's your mission in life? What do you want to be? And suddenly it came to me that what I want to be is an enzyme for synergy and creativity.
Okay, so
what does that mean?
yeah.
Good question. I think it is what I am doing now.
Yes.
It's the way I'm living my life. I want to live a life where I am deeply involved in the arts. I am deeply involved in supporting the arts and in bringing people together in the world of art to make things happen. And a lot of this happened or is happening because of the time I spent at Yale, which really was the kickoff, I would say, to my third act and has made it, so incredibly rewarding. And now that was 2012, 2013. So that was more than, 10, 13 years ago. It was a while ago. But it set me up with the friendships and the connections and the sort of understanding that has led me to doing things that are and supporting things that are very exciting. Like I'm on the board of Heartbeat Opera, which is this scrappy little opera company that hits way above its weight and it's so rewarding. It's so exciting to sort of support them and watch them grow and succeed in all these ways. And I'm involved with Rattlestick Theater in the same sort of way. I'm on their advisory board. I just keep somehow landing. I mostly am following young directors around and finding ways to support them in their lives. And that gives me huge joy, really great joy, and just fulfills my life in a really rich way. I recently had the great privilege to sit down with one of my directing friends from when I was there, Margot Bordelon, who is writing her own piece for the first time that she's been working on for a long time. And she's writing a piece about her mother, who's close to my age. And I got to sit for 2 days. We sat in a coffee shop and read parts of things that she had written, parts of the story where we just went back and forth and she got to hear me be a voice like her mom. That's not her mom. We're very different, but for me, it was thrilling just to be part of that process. And, what I have found is I think a lot about aging now because I'm getting older, as we all are. And, each decade of my life has been better. Kind of interestingly enough. I remember when I was like 24 thinking, by the time I'm 35, I'll have everything figured out.
See, and I feel like as someone who's 32, turning 33 this year, so much of what you have spoken about resonates with me. I'm thinking about like your rural child upbringing, your mom being a teacher, thinking that you were going to follow in her footsteps. And I think that like for myself, I think about my own paths and like my own different experiences that I've taken. And it brings me back to something you said earlier where you mentioned how you feel like you've only been getting better with age, right? And, you're someone who you were doing law school and being a lawyer during the second wave feminist movement. We spoke about that briefly. I feel like society teaches us women, one, that there's only one real appropriate path. And I feel like that's something that's kind of being doubled down on, where it's
Mhm.
like you get married, you have kids, you settle down, you give up your career, you give up your life, you give up your identity in order to be wife and mother, right? And on top of that, it's that once you're past 30, you're out of your prime. And I feel like the opposite's true.
Yep.
As we get older as women, we are actually improving. Aging is a blessing, especially in the world that we live in today, right? And so, do you feel like those things resonate with you? Because I feel like I'm looking at you and I'm looking at
Absolutely.
my future.
Yeah. Good. That makes me so happy because, I mean, what was interesting is that I get to be 35 where I'm going to have it all figured out, right?
Yeah.
35 is, I believe, the year I got divorced. I got, I mean, a
Yeah.
lot of shit came down that year. It was hardly a year I had it all figured out. And each year, when I do these decade markers, like
Yeah.
when I turned 40, I was pregnant when I was 40. I loved that. And I was hugely pregnant,
Yeah.
you know,
And back to back to back.
yeah, back to back to back. So on my 40th birthday on December 8th, I am pregnant with our daughter, Ann Tiernan, who was born on December 28th.
Yes.
So, that to me was just a lovely way to be in my 40s. I went to my 25th high school reunion pregnant with Claire. And there were classmates who had grandkids.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, I'm having another one of these.
See,
And
I
it
love that.
I loved that too. I love that so much. And, it's like, I already said this, but then life goes on and I go to the Yale School of Drama the year I qualify for Medicare. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And that really, really jump-started this phase. And so I turned 50. That was exciting. 70 was good. I'll let you know about 80. I mean, I'm getting closer to it. But what I would like to see, and I am seeing among people who are my age, and Patrick's like this too. He's very interested in aging and how we look at aging.
Yeah.
And that aging is not a decline.
No, it's not.
It's not a decline.
It's like wine. It gets better with time.
Exactly.
You know yourself better. I think that like the way that our society, like especially in the United States, is so structured, obviously we're under all these different systems, capitalism, patriarchy, et cetera, et cetera. And it's like we're pressured to know who we are at 18 before we go to college. And it's like,
you don't. There's no way you can know who you are at 18.
it's like, and also like even on the biological aspect, like studies are being released all the time, right? First they said your frontal lobe fully develops at 25. Now they say you don't reach maturity until you're 32. And so it's like, why are we putting so much pressure on ourselves to know who we are and to be this one thing for the rest of our lives as if we're static?
Yeah.
And not dynamic individuals. I think that's my biggest thing. Like when I meet people, especially younger folks, I'm like, dude, I was just telling someone this story the other day. I graduated high school with a full ride to multiple colleges, and instead I decided to go be an anarchist in New Orleans. And so it's like, I have no regrets. I didn't go to college until I was like 26, 27. And by then I was still figuring out who I was. Like I knew that I liked these things and I knew that I liked these things, but it wasn't until I took classes that I was fully like embodied and like, okay, no, this is what I actually want to go to school for.
Right.
And like, between 18 and 26, I did all these different things. I raced bikes. I like traveled around and raced bikes. I did organizing stuff. So it's like life is constantly evolving.
It is. And as long as you're open to life constantly evolving, you're not going to get old.
Yeah.
You're going to just be stimulated and excited. I mean, it is like reaping the harvest. I mean, there are all these things you did a lot of planting. We did a lot of sowing. We did a lot of watering. We did a lot of this stuff. And now I get the harvest.
Yeah.
Now I get the good stuff.
You get to enjoy the fruits of your labor.
Yeah. I get the good stuff. I have grandkids. They're really good. They're, this life is pretty fantastic right now.
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty fantastic. And, there's just no reason to think that it's a downturn.
Yeah. And
unless you make it a downturn.
Exactly.
If you stop.
Well, I feel like your whole life is a testimony to the fact that it's not. And like that women can choose to do things when they want to do things. Because even having your first kid at 40, like that's not the dominant narrative as to when a woman should have her first child, right? And it's like you waited, you lived your life.
I actually had my first one at 37.
Okay.
Second at 40. third at 42.
Right. And I feel like
Yeah.
even the narratives now where it's like, oh, well, that's not healthy, or like a woman starts losing her prime at 30, and it's
Yeah. Really?
like
Who says?
I think of myself like
Who
literally
says?
who says? And it's
Yeah.
like for me, my mom, when she was my age, I was 8.
Whoa.
She was raising an 8-year-old at 32.
Yeah.
I can't imagine raising an 8-year-old right now. I can barely do with my 2 cats. They drive me nuts.
I know. Right. Well, cats are complicated.
Yeah, they are complicated. I mean,
cats are complicated.
Yeah, they are.
I knew you were a cat person.
I like all animals, but cats. Yeah, they have boundaries. I have boundaries. I'm a little bit of introvert. They're a little bit introverts. They want to hang out when they want to hang out. I want to hang out when I want to hang out.
Exactly.
So it meshes well.
Yeah. No, I'm definitely a cat lady.
It's beautiful. Yeah, it's all right.
Yeah.
Who do you want to start? Do you want me to start? You want to go first?
So this is something I want to tell you. I just want to encourage you to keep doing what you're doing and believe in yourself, and always think of the future as something that is better and bigger and grander and even more. It's the openness, and don't plan ahead. See what comes up.
Yeah.
Don't have it all planned out step by step. Just let it happen.
Yeah. I would like to thank you for coming on and being a prime example of what it is to be a courageous woman and to be a brave woman who chooses herself and chooses her life on her own terms. And I think that's really beautiful. And it's something that, literally the first time I was like, I like your hair. Like I used to have a purple afro, a pink afro. So I know.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about my hair.
I think that's important because I feel like, first of all, like in the dominant culture, like in media, like women are not exemplified. And when they are exemplified, it's because they are following what they are told they should be and who they should be.
Yep.
And so for a woman to fully be herself, to be authentic, to be genuine, and to follow her heart, I think that's the most groundbreaking, most revolutionary thing you can be.
And it's wonderful. It is. I mean, it's what you have to do.
Yeah.
Just follow your heart. And, I'm lucky I have a husband who supports me following my heart.
Yeah. So I feel like, we're just speaking to being a woman who follows on her own path. Who were your role models growing up? Like when you looked at people around you, did you see people that you wanted to be like? Or as you got older, did you feel like you kind of went in the completely opposite direction of people who were your initial role models? Like what shaped you?
Yeah.
What cultural movements shaped you?
That's a really interesting question. I'm thinking, who were I'm sure it was my mom in the beginning, because she was a quiet groundbreaker in her own way. She wasn't loud. She was soft-spoken, but she was, the first woman administrator in the public school system where she was. And she ended up being a principal, and she ended up being a principal of 2 schools. She was the first woman to wear pantsuits, which was a thing.
I got goosebumps.
It was a thing back then. So the fact that she did stuff like that, and my, I have strong cousins who are also, I'm an only child.
Okay.
And my cousins are like my siblings. I call them my sister cousins.
Yeah.
And sort of following different aspects of them. And then I'm thinking, after that, damn, that's really, I will tell you now who inspires me. And that's my dear friend Liz Diamond, who's the chair of directing at Yale. And I give her a lot of credit for kicking me into this third act, or helping me into this third act, because she welcomed me as a student along with students who were way younger than me. And
incredible.
It helps me, and really inspired me the same way she inspires them, which is sort of, amazing. And then we also, this is another thing that happens is as you get older, is you start to build these, it's not like you're looking up to somebody or but you find kindred spirits and you bond with those kindred spirits and you build something.
Yeah.
And that has been, I would say, since Pandora, which was this wonderful ensemble experience of coming together with people who I still love and I'm still close to Westerly School, which was another coming together of people who I'm still close to that were related to the school. And Yale, another group of people, but they're collaborators and they're co-conspirators
Right.
for coming up with
Co-conspirators is a great term.
co-conspirators. I love that phrase.
Yeah.
And to what can we cook up together? What can we cook up? And that these partnerships, collaborations, connections, and putting people together, that's what gives me joy. And that's what sort of keeps me going now
Yeah.
more than any one person. I mean, other than please let me act like Laurie Metcalf if I ever get on stage again, or Meryl
Yeah.
Streep, blah, 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 blah. But, I'm not seeking that out.
Yeah.
What I seek out are these friendships and connections, and family is huge.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Family is huge. And we are so, so blessed and we constantly say this, we're so blessed because we have 3 kids. They have each found the perfect partner for them, which I applaud.
Yeah.
And the ones who have kids and love having kids. And the one who doesn't want to have kids is not having kids. And she's surfing up and down the coast of Baja, California and having a
what
wonderful time.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's a total badass.
Yeah.
Yeah. They all are total badasses in their own ways. And we just love them so much. And it's just, we like to just sort of sit back and go, it's fun to just watch them now. And that's a gift. That's a gift. Well, what's up next for you?
What's up next for me?
What do you want to be up next for you? What's the sort of dream thing that's out there?
I'm getting back into my art practice, definitely. It's something that I still think about. It's something I think about a lot because I'm constantly on this fence of, do I want to do things in a way that's more grassroots and like organic to me? Do I want to have an art career? Knowing what comes with an art career, knowing the institutions that I will have to navigate by having an art career. And so those are the things that I've been thinking about a lot. And also because similar to you, like I've had all these different experiences and I often think about what does it look like to integrate them?
Yeah.
Is there an integration or is there a ebbs and flows of periods of time where I'm doing one thing and then I'm doing another thing? And so, yeah.
It doesn't have to all make sense.
Yeah. Yeah. That's where I'm at now. I'm like, people
Don't
are like, what don't you do? And I'm like, what I don't like to do. I don't do things I don't like to do. That's what I don't do.
Yes. Keep that.
Yeah.
Don't do things you don't like to do. Do things you do like to do.
I'm like, I have ADHD. I can't do things that I don't like to do. If I don't like to do it, I'm not doing it.
And don't worry about whether it makes sense or not.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Yeah.
So, but I am curious about what your art is.
I paint, I take photos. I've also taken a couple of different classes in different mediums like cyanotypes. For me, because I am a double major in studio art and Africana studies, I'm interested in how art can be utilized as a tool to educate and mobilize people. Okay. And so I think that like art is and also like for me, I mean, I've always been around art. I was always interested in art as a child. I think that too, creating has brought me out of some of my more darker times in my life. And so I also see art as like a tool for healing. I think there's a lot that can be expressed. And it's kind of like what James Baldwin said. I can't remember the exact quote, but he speaks to, you think that the things that you've gone through are unique to you until you start to read. And I think it's very similar to art. You think that the things you've gone through are very unique to you until you look at art and you see yourself reflected in what's being shown. And so I think that that's really important because at the end of the day, like we're all humans and we're all having our unique experiences, but there's so much that we go through that we don't realize. And I think that, because also I used to be a healer too. Like I was a Reiki healer at one point in my life. Okay. And I think that there's so many things that separate us and that we forget that like at the end of the day, we're here to love one another and like to come together. And so I think that's a big part of whatever next steps are for me. I'm just following that,
You're following those shiny objects.
Exactly.
Good job.